I stepped into my courtroom that morning like I always do, ready to cut through the nonsense. The bailiff called the case, and I settled into my chair, peering over my glasses at the two parties standing before me. Plaintiff, a quiet, middle-aged woman named Mrs. Elena Ramirez, who looked like she'd been through the ringer. Defendant, a slick 20-something guy in an overpriced suit, hair gelled to within an inch of its life, smirking like he owned the place. His name was Derek Voss. Mrs. Ramirez, I said, my voice sharp as a tack, tell me what this young man did to you. She spoke softly at first, hands twisting in her lap. Derek had rented the apartment above hers for 6 months. Loud parties every weekend, holes punched in walls, late-night screaming matches with his girlfriend. But the final straw? He flooded her ceiling with a broken washing machine he refused to fix. Water damage ruined her furniture, her carpets, her peace of mind. She had photos, receipts, repair estimates, everything. I nodded. Facts. I like facts. Derek rolled his eyes so hard I thought they might pop out. Your Honor, this is ridiculous. She's blowing it out of proportion. It was an accident. An accident? I leaned forward. You mean the kind of accident that happens when you ignore 3 written notices and keep running that machine like it's a carnival ride? Sit down and stop fidgeting. You're not at a club. He sat, but that smirk stayed plastered on his face. I could already smell the entitlement from across the bench. I've seen 1,000 Derek's kids who think the world owes them because daddy has money, or they once shook hands with somebody important. I turned back to Mrs. Ramirez. How much are we talking? $8,000, Your Honor? That's what the restoration company quoted. Derek snorted. 8,000? Lady, you live in a shoebox. Your stuff wasn't worth that. That's when I felt the temperature in the room shift. I fixed him with the stare, the one that makes lawyers sweat. Mr. Voss, you will address the plaintiff with respect, or you can address the outside of my courtroom door. Understood? He leaned back, crossed his arms. Whatever. Look, I know people. This is small claims. It's not even real court. I raised an eyebrow. Not real court? Son, this is my courtroom. It's as real as it gets. Now explain to me why you think you're above fixing what you broke. He started rambling about how busy he was, social media, influencer, brand deals, important meetings, the usual nonsense. I let him talk for about 30 seconds before I cut him off. Important meetings? With who? The pizza delivery guy? Because from where I'm sitting, you look like a boy playing dress up in his father's suit. The gallery chuckled. Derek's face flushed red. He shot up from his chair. You can't talk to me like that. Do you even know who I am? There it was, the magic words, the phrase that always makes my blood boil because it usually comes right before the dumbest behavior I've seen all week. I let the silence hang for a beat. Then I smiled that cold, sweet smile I save for special idiots. Do I know who you are? Let me tell you something, Derek Voss. I've been a judge for longer than you've been alive. I've sat across from murderers, con artists, millionaires, and politicians. Real people with real power. You're a kid who can't even keep his own laundry from destroying someone else's home. So no, I don't know who you are. And after today, neither will anyone else once this goes viral on that precious social media of yours. He opened his mouth, but I held up my hand. Sit down. He sat. I turned to Mrs. Ramirez. Ma'am, you've got solid evidence. This young man flooded your apartment, ignored your complaints, and now he wants to play the important person card. In my courtroom, we don't care about your followers or your brand. We care about responsibility. Derek tried again. Your Honor, I have connections. Your uncle could be the president for all I care. You damaged this woman's property. You're going to pay for it. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $8,000 plus court costs. And Mr. Voss? He glared at me. Next time you feel like announcing how important you are, try paying your bills on time. It'll make you look a lot smarter. Case closed. I banged the gavel. But as they gathered their things, I could see Derek wasn't done. His face twisted with rage. He muttered something under his breath about suing me, about how I'd regret it. I leaned forward again. Mr. Voss, if you think threatening a judge in her own courtroom is a good career move, you really are as dumb as you look. Bailiff, escort him out if he can't behave. The gallery erupted in applause as he stormed out, red-faced and humiliated. Mrs. Ramirez wiped tears from her eyes and thanked me quietly. I waved it off. Just doing my job, dear. Go fix your ceiling. That afternoon, the clip started circulating. Someone in the audience had recorded it on their phone. Judge Judy destroys entitled kid who says, "Do you even know who I am?" Within hours, it had hundreds of thousands of views. People loved it. They always do when someone gets exactly what they deserve. But I wasn't thinking about the views. I was thinking about Mrs. Ramirez sleeping peacefully in her apartment again without water dripping on her head. That's what matters. Not the theatrics. Not the fame. Just the truth. Delivered straight, no chaser. Later that day, my producer poked his head in. "Judy, that clip is blowing up. Networks are calling." I shrugged, already reviewing the next case file. Good. Maybe some other entitled brat will watch it and learn something before they stand in my courtroom. Now who's next? The day wasn't over. There were more fools to deal with, more nonsense to slice through. But that moment with Derek Voss, it reminded me why I still do this. Because in a world full of people screaming, "Do you know who I am?" somebody needs to remind them. Nobody cares until they face the consequences. I stepped out of the courtroom for a quick break after that circus, but the energy from the Voss case still crackled in the air. My staff was buzzing, phones were lighting up. I waved them off. Save the excitement. We've got a docket full of people who can't manage their own lives. Let's keep moving. But Derek Voss wasn't finished making a fool of himself. Later that same afternoon, during the next case, my bailiff leaned in and whispered that the young man had refused to leave the building. He was out in the hallway, on his phone, ranting to whoever would listen. "She embarrassed me on camera. I'll sue her for defamation." I almost laughed out loud. Defamation? In my courtroom? The nerve of some people. I finished the current case, a simple dog bite dispute where both owners were equally clueless, and then I did something I rarely do. I had the bailiff bring Mr. Voss back in. Not for another hearing, just for a private word. Because if there's one thing I can't stand, it's a sore loser who thinks the rules don't apply to him. "Mr. Voss," I said as he stood there, still in that ridiculous suit, cheeks still flushed, "You're back. Couldn't stay away?" He puffed up his chest. "You humiliated me in there. My followers are already turning on me. This is going to ruin my brand. I have sponsorships lined up. Do you have any idea how much money this could cost me?" I looked him dead in the eye. "Sit down before I have you removed for real this time. And listen carefully, because I'm only going to say this once. You didn't ruin your brand today. You revealed it. You think the world revolves around your little influencer life? Newsflash, it doesn't. Mrs. Ramirez worked 40 years in a factory to afford that apartment. She raised 2 kids alone. You punched holes in her ceiling because you couldn't be bothered to call a repairman. That's not a brand issue. That's a character issue." He tried to interrupt. "But, Your Honor, don't butt me, young man. I've heard every excuse in the book. I'm important. I know people. It was an accident. I've seen defendants cry, lie, and charm their way out of responsibility. You chose to smirk and act superior. That clip you're so worried about, it's not ruining you. It's teaching you if you're smart enough to learn. Pay the judgment. Fix what you broke. Grow up or don't. But don't come crying to my courtroom again when the next landlord evicts you." Derek stared at the floor for the first time. The smirk was gone. For a split second, I saw something almost human flicker across his face. Maybe shame, maybe just the realization that his usual tactics weren't working. Then the defiance came roaring back. "You're just an old lady with a gavel," he muttered. "This isn't over." I leaned forward, voice low and cutting. "Old lady, I've buried smarter men than you with nothing but words. This case is over. The